All right. Good morning, everyone. Hope you all are doing well. Happy Thursday. So let's go ahead and take a look and see what Bitcoin is doing. It actually is showing a very bullish scenario. I was not expecting this, but again, the market is going to do what it's going to do, right? Um, so I'm on the weekly time frame right now. We're going to start at some of the bigger time frames, kind of work our way down, and then go into liquidity in our order book as well. So as you can see, we're kind of right now we're in a compression like candle here on the weekly. Definitely a bullish, case at least for right now. We are closing this candle in about 3 days and 10 hours. We're bouncing off of that 200 MA. We're very far from the 21, so we should be expecting that before we make a huge move down. We may be making a bear flag. Um, you know, Bullish case would be that this is obviously the bearish case. Bullish case is that we get a reversal here. We make some sort of, I guess, swing low, even though the wick of this candle is way up there, but we could be making some sort of swing low and then we come, and really bounce from there and never revisit it, right? Um, right now, I'm expecting more of the bear flag case, but again, that's weeks in advance. We don't know what price action is going to do by then. Um, One thing that I found that was interesting yesterday was that it looks like the BTC CME chart, which is this BTC one here, we did lose the 200 week moving average last week. So this did close below that yellow line right there. Um, it does look like we are bouncing off of it for right now for this week. We do have the 21 quite far away, so same sort of scenario. Expecting for right now the bear flag like move for the next couple of weeks, and for price action to meet with that 21 coming down. At least getting the 21 MA somewhat close to price action before our continued move down, or if we reverse as well. Let's go ahead and go back to just the regular BTC futures chart here. Going down into the daily, you know, this was what was really kind of bugging me out yesterday. We never got a wick to the downside. We've just only been pumping up. So that is, an extremely bullish move. That's great news for the bulls. However, it is an oddity, right? We usually, on most candles, we get a wick on both sides. It doesn't mean that it needs to happen that way. This could definitely close bullishly. But the last time that we closed that, it's going to be really difficult for me to find one, because even like this candle right here still has a little bit of a wick to the downside. Um, I believe the last time we closed that, a candle with no wick to the upside or downside. Let's see, was it back in here, right here, January 19th? So that was about, almost 5 months ago that we've done something like that. So it's extremely rare on the daily that you're going to see a candle that has no wick whatsoever to the upside or the downside. So just kind of keep that in mind today. I mean, not saying that we aren't going to go up, because we are consolidating very bullishly, but it just is a very rare occurrence that happens. Going into the 12 hour, again, we're seeing that bullish candle, and it actually did close. So definitely, like I said, it can close on the daily. We did have one back here on June 1st, it looks like, where we closed with no wick to the upside. So, it definitely can happen. Um, but it looks like this new candle that opened, we have a good almost 10 hours with it. We want to see it close somewhat within, probably within this range. Definitely don't want to lose, more than half of the body of this candle right here to stay bullish. If we do, we want to see it wick back immediately, showing some sort of sensitivity. So let's go ahead and go into the 4 hour. 4 hour, we're using this weekly open as resistance for right now. If we do start consolidating and moving up still bullishly, I know that last night we were slowly moving up bullishly the whole night, right? So if we continue that trend, we definitely want to see weekly open taken and candles closing above it on the bigger time frames. We want to see, 63,503 taken as well. That's a nice resistance line that we have right now. So taking that, and then ultimately getting up into the 64,000 range, taking out this double top at 64,000, 200-ish, 150-ish, and then moving up from there even potentially. So kind of some levels I'm watching for today. I personally am not taking a trade until we start being able to move above this weekly open and closing candles even above the 63,503. I'll look and see if there's any opportunity. But it is right now, in my opinion, extremely risky to be kind of trading this market. It's extremely indecisive this week. We're only dealing within a couple $1,000 range here. So if you look, you're dealing from 64,000 down to 60,000, and we're kind of hovering between 60,000 and 63,000. So just a couple $1,000. It doesn't give you a lot of leeway, a lot of price action to go off of. So let's go ahead and drill down into the 1 hour. 1 hour is a very bullish case. You're kind of making a flag here, which is great. To hopefully support that move going up. So if we could stay in this flag right here, we could potentially, break out at least to hopefully, almost test up to the 64,000 range. So, you're going to be probably getting this golden cross here where the 21 MA crosses over the 200 MA, which is a bullish, really bullish sign. Same with if we were to flip this chart and it's bearish, you want to see that the 21 crosses over the 200, which is called a death cross, right? So this is a really good sign so far. Definitely a more bullish day than we've seen this week. So going into the 15 finally, and then we'll get to liquidity. Again, we're kind of flagging out. We are staying within this nice tight range right here. So it's a really good scenario that we're in right now. And actually, let me see if I can flip this and see if we're seeing any sort of 786 levels yet. So yeah, I mean, we did react strongly off of this local 786 around 62,530. So there's a really good chance that sooner rather than later, as long as we can get above weekly open, that we're testing that, that 63,503 level at least. So that's what I would be kind of looking for right now. Let's take a look at liquidity and see what's happening over there. Okay, so here's our liquidity and here is our order book. Let me refresh this actually and see if we can get some new data in here. But for our liquidity so far, taking a look, let's go ahead and go into the daily, see if anything's changed. And I haven't checked it in a while here. So going into the daily, it looks like we have about the same sort of situation. We have, liquidity to the upside and liquidity to the downside, around 58,200, and to the upside going all the way to 66,000 about. If I were to check all of these boxes off, we still have these yellow areas down here, still have that liquidity that we've been talking about at that 47,000 range. So those are definitely some areas to consider. We don't quite have local liquidity from the 3x, basically 25x downward. We don't have too much to take just yet that has really built up. So there is quite a big gap if we keep all of these liquidity pools checked to get to the upside, all the way up to 80,000 again. So doesn't mean that we can't go there, but it's just that we don't have a lot of major bridging liquidity to get up there. 25x, we do have some close, and we'll be able to drill that down to, from the 4 hour here. But it's always good to take a look at the daily every once in a while. Let's go ahead and take a look at the 4 hour. So the 4 hour should show kind of the same thing as the daily. I believe we talked about it last time, but we are starting to get a bridge to the downside. Kind of showing up more here, so there is more of a bridge, to possibly get us down lower. Still have this up here we could easily take first. Let me go ahead and take a look at the 15 now. So the 15, you can see that we are kind of bouncing off of some local range liquidity right here. There is quite a bit on both sides, so you can see that there's some yellow liquidity right here. There's some yellow liquidity locally up here. This is all at the 100x level in the liquidity pool. Let's take a look at the 50x. So 50x, kind of supports the same thing. We could easily come up, take this upside liquidity up here where our 786 levels are. But it's just really going to depend on how this day is playing out. We can, do a rounded top here, which if we do, kind of expect maybe a bounce. Um, you know, Probably have to pull from maybe this area down here. Let's see here. That would put us at 61,588. So let me draw a line right there, see how that aligns with some of maybe the 50x liquidity. Yeah, so you can see, on the 50x, that kind of takes us down through all of this, right? You could possibly, see a bounce right around there. 25x doesn't have any additional. So, the unfortunate thing about this is that we have a good enough amount of liquidity now on both sides where we can just start bridging, way up, or we can start bridging way down. Usually we don't take out everything normally when it comes to liquidity, but it's just something to keep in mind that we can, either, fall through and we don't even have to bounce here. We could just come all the way down here. But the same thing goes for the upside, right? We could come all the way up and test 64,777 without too much downside potential. So it's really going to be interesting to see, if we can get above some of those key levels, like the weekly open at 63.3, that resistance at 63.5, which is around that little yellow band right there. The order book for right now does show that, we are eating some of these topside orders, so they are digging through some of this liquidity up here for right now. It'll be interesting to see how far we can get today if we're going to, like I said, get rejected right now. We are getting some orders to the downside. It looks like, possibly could be used as support, even going all the way down to 60,800. But it really, I think this is a pretty decent order too at 61,875. So that kind of supports that idea with 61,578. That's around that area. So definitely, just kind of stay on top of it. It's going to be I feel like today it may be difficult to look for a setup. For me, potentially, if I'm going to be looking for a long, I'm going to want to see some of this lower liquidity to take it out first and making some sort of bullish flag pattern, probably down here. Otherwise, I'm probably going to stay out of the market. I don't want to short it either, but again, not financial advice. Do what you want to do with this information. But that's kind of what my play is going to be for the day. So anyway, guys, I hope that you found this informative and being a helpful update, and I will talk to you guys later on today. Take care.